everyone, welcome to IST's Beyond NITK series. For today's session, we'll be interviewing Snehal Jauri. He was the IST convener for the year 2015 to 2016. He is currently doing his PhD in the field of robotics at the University of TU Darmstadt. Could you tell us a bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Snehal Jauri. I was in NITK. I graduated in NITK in 2016. And I'm right now doing my PhD in Germany in robotics and machine learning. And I'd say, I'm a robotics researcher currently in Europe. And a bit more about myself from NITK. I was in the electrical electronics department in NITK, and I was also part of ISTE from 2013 to 2016. I was technically also IST convener in 2016. And since then I've been working, studying, roaming around, traveling a bit here and there, and that's where I am right now in Germany, in sunny Germany, enjoying my PhD.
How has your experience been so far as a PhD researcher at TU Darmstadt?
It's been great. Well, for your PhD, everything depends on the particular lab you're in and the particular research group you're in. And this research group that I'm part of is quite reputed. Actually, my advisor from TU Delft, where I did my master, he did his PhD with this group here at TU Darmstadt. So he advised me to come here. So that's why I'm here, and it's been really fun. So it's a really nice robotics and learning lab over here, and I'm enjoying myself. I've just started a few weeks ago, actually, my PhD, and things are looking really nice, really interesting. I'm quite excited.
What drew you to the field of robotics?
Well, robotics essentially is like a lot of different fields combined into one. It's not something you study essentially, but people from lots of different fields just choose to work on it as an application. So you have computer vision researchers or computer vision engineers who are working on robotic perception and vision. You have mechanical engineers working on robot design, and you have electrical and electronics engineers working on lots of components and software and so on. So I think what drew me towards it was the fact that I was interested in lots of different things. I did my master's and my bachelor. I did my master's in embedded systems. I did my bachelor's in electrical electronics. I did some robotics machine learning courses in my master, and then I just sort of drew towards the field. It's also a nice field because you get a lot of toys to play with.
Also, what subfields in robotics are trending at the moment?
So I would say that there's an AI boom right now, and there's a lot of projects getting funded at the moment. There's also been lots of good advancements in AI in the last 10 years or so. So there is a lot of focus on getting robots to work in households, getting robots to work in they call it unstructured environments, basically anything that's not a factory floor. And there's been a lot of funding for robots in all these different kinds of situations. There's been a lot of robot products also that have been launched recently. So subfields, I would say, is there's a lot of robot motion planning. There's robot learning, which is what I'm doing my PhD in, which is basically machine learning plus robotics. There's reinforcement learning and a lot of advancements over there. There's a lot of computer vision. Computer vision has sort of exploded in the last 20 years, of course. So there's a lot of computer vision researchers who are now doing computer vision for robotics and so on. I would say those are the fields that are trending. It's a bit less right now on the actual design stuff, because actually we have some good robots, some good robot designs that are already there. So maybe a bit less on the mechanical design aspect of it, but a lot of work on the software and control.
So now a little into the MS side. We wanted to know, what is the difference in doing an MS in embedded systems and computer science, and what would be better?
Yeah, well, it depends on what you're interested in. So technically, embedded systems is not a field of study. It's a field of application. There are lots of things like this. I would say whenever you look for some field to work in, you have to think about, is it a study field or is it an application field? I mean, you could be studying something but applying it somewhere else. You could be studying computer vision methods but applying it for robots. You could be studying computer vision and applying it for different things, software applications, anything. So embedded systems is not exactly a study field; it's an application. So it's embedded systems is applying software, hardware, different kind of things for small computers. You could be working on electronics and chip design and so on, and be working on embedded systems. You could be working on some computer vision thing for a small camera, and that is technically also embedded systems. But you could be working on very different things, but working in the same application field. Within embedded systems, people work on, like I said, software. They work on control software, on like how to run a controller in a small computer really quick. They can work on vision. They can work on chip design, like how do you make the electronics in a small package. If you're working on power electronics, if you look at how to effectively manage the power in a small computer, and so on. It's very similar in robotics, as I've already mentioned. You could be working on very different things, but it's all under robotics. So yeah, the difference between those two is what application field you want to. Generally, if you do a master in embedded system robotics, the kind of subjects you would study will vary accordingly. Having said that, I did my master's in embedded systems, but I did a lot of coursework in controls and robotics. But that's because my master was actually quite flexible in that respect to basically do whatever I wanted. But yeah, it totally depends on what you want to work on, what application you want.
How was your work experience at Bosch and Almende?
Work experience was good. So I worked for 2 years immediately after graduating from NITK. And yeah, that was useful. Work experience is probably most useful is because you're out of college. And then since you're out of college, you sort of have to think about what you're doing next because it's slightly more open ended. When you're at college, it's sort of your next step is already defined what you have to do. Same with masters or PhD. But when you're outside college, it's sort of like, yeah, your next step is up to you. So you sort of have to do some soul searching and be like, okay, what do I want to do next? That's the most useful thing of any work-ex. So my work-ex was quite good. I worked in a project related to autonomous driving, but I was still working on embedded system classes. There you go. Another different application, different thing. But yeah, my project was related to localization of autonomous vehicles, but I've been working mostly on just the embedded system software. And of course, I was a junior developer, so I mostly just did some basic C programming for some sensor interfacing for this embedded system and so on, and those kind of things. But yeah, it's a very useful experience working in a team. We had an international team as well. I was lucky to be in an international team with people from Germany, Portugal, and Bangalore. It was good. The other company I worked in was in the Netherlands. After I finished my master, I worked for 1 year at a robotics company. That was even better. That was like pretty much already into research. So I already worked as a researcher, as a robotics researcher for about a year at this robotics company in the Netherlands. And yeah, that was pretty good. That was actually somewhat close to the research I was doing in my master's.
What attracted you to the Netherlands, particularly to TU Delft?
I'd say the course. I had really applied to too many places for my master. TU Delft actually gave me the admit quite early on, and the course was pretty much perfect for what I wanted to do. As I said, it gave me a lot of flexibility to do embedded systems, controls, robotics, machine learning, and everything. So I just took that. Netherlands specifically, well, I had some seniors from NITK who had gone to the Netherlands before, and they had like their experience. English is all the masters there, and everyone there pretty much speaks English, so that was useful. Once I got the admit from TU Delft, I only applied to two very ambitious US universities that had a similar program, but I didn't get that, so I just took TU Delft, and yeah, it turned out to be a really good decision.
How is the application process for an MS in your college?
Almost all MS application processes are similar. Yeah, for all US universities, there's a GRE, and then you have to write a letter of motivation, SOP, and get recommendations and so on. And it was the same for TU Delft. Only thing, TU Delft didn't need a GRE in my case, but sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. For some courses, they do. It was a shame actually because I did write the GRE, but I didn't actually end up using it for my admit. But yeah, it's the standard procedure: SOPs, letters of recommendation, apply quite early, plan out which university you want to apply for quite early, and then yeah, it's straightforward.
What colleges would you advise students who want to pursue an MS in embedded systems and robotics should look into?
But there's a lot of programs. Uh, there's so many programs in US and Europe, especially a lot of universities are starting this master in robotics. Actually, I did when I applied to TU Delft, there wasn't a master in robotics, but now there is. Now they've made a dedicated master in robotics. So I would say try to get a dedicated master's in that particular field that you want to work on, and then that will work out. As I mentioned, embedded systems and robotics, not every place will have a dedicated master for them because they're not exactly their application fields, not research fields. So places will have masters in computer vision, they'll have masters in electronics or whatever, and they might have some specific specialization in embedded systems or robotics or something. So you would have to do a lot of research to figure out exactly what coursework it is as well. I would say the main thing I would tell people to look is just look at every university you can think of, go through all the guides, look at every university, and look at the coursework at any particular master program. Because gives you and then accordingly decide what courses you want to do. It takes a while to go through everything, especially if you're looking at multiple continents, if you're looking at Europe and US, and maybe I don't know, Australia or something. It takes quite some time, so you can start your research early. So it will take quite some time to go through every university and every program and see what you like and what you don't like and so on. But yeah, it's worth the search because if you can get the perfect program and the courses you like, then it can actually work.
Would you recommend one pursue an MS specifically in your field, post a job experience, or soon after college?
It depends on how clear you are on what you want to do. There are some people who are like very clear they want to do research and they want to do particular thing, and so they just go immediately after college. You can save 1 or 2 years. Having said that, yeah, 1 or 2 years doesn't matter too much if you're going to have like a 30, 40 years career. So you might as well take some time. It also depends if you can get a job in your field immediately after college. Not everyone can. Some people have niche fields which don't really have so many jobs. Like for instance, if I had been looking for a robotics job immediately after my NITK BTech, may not have been that easy, may not have gotten exactly what I wanted. But yeah, it depends. I can only tell you like my experience, which was that I didn't think I was going to do a master when I finished my bachelor's, but I joined a tech company and I did a nice project with Bosch, and then I was like, okay, this is cool. I think I want to do a master in this. I did my master's, and I didn't think I would do a PhD, but then I did want to leave that door open. So what I did was I specifically took a master that had a master thesis. So a master thesis is your final research project, your major project of your master. But yeah, you have to write a thesis and do some research and so on. So yeah, my master thesis actually turned out quite good, and I was actually really interested in research. So then I ended up pursuing research for another year and then starting my PhD. So the only thing I would suggest is just keep your options open because you never know, especially after college. College is like quite a closed box. You don't really get a full experience of everything in college. So uh, just keep all your options open, do some soul searching after college to think about what you want to do. What you don't want is you don't want to be put in a box immediately after college. Like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So yeah, it hardly matters. Like your 20s, you can spend exploring and doing all that stuff. to figure out what you want to do. Yeah, as I mentioned before, the work ex helped me because it just took me out of my comfort zone. It was like, okay, what do you want to do next? You can study further. You know, study further. You want to do an MBA or something. Yeah, it sort of opens up a lot of options and makes you think a lot. So I would suggest keeping your options open, trying out lots of different things. Just to, I mean, I would say you can treat the 1 or 2 years after your BTech as essentially an internship time. Sort of, yeah, the same thing that you do in an internship. Figure out if you like this thing or if you like this company or whatever. You can treat the 2 years after your BTech as an internship and be like, okay, let me try out different things and see what I like.
What are some of the upcoming things students should look out for in your field?
Like I said, there's an AI boom right now. So there's a lot of machine learning and stuff happening. Some would say there's too much machine learning and stuff happening. There's sort of trying to squeeze machine learning in places where it doesn't actually, you don't actually need it. But yeah, it's sort of going to become a case that having done some learning and stuff on your CV, sort of people will look at that and say, okay, that's something useful. It might become something you just need to have to tick a box. Uh, so yeah, I would say learning is important. There's basic maths, which I think is important in every field, like linear algebra and so on. And I think they have courses on linear algebra in your final year at NITK, but they also have it online. I would say linear algebra, math is essential for pretty much everything in embedded system robotics everywhere. You will see a lot of it if you pursue a master's. And machine learning, specifically to robotics, again, it depends on specifically what in robotics you will do. Could be computer vision or motion planning or control or something. Yeah, but up and coming is a lot of computer vision and learning.
How do you think your journey through NITK has helped you in pursuing an MS?
I don't think it's something actually, but I would say that my journey through NITK sort of took me through a lot of. I would say that the most important thing from NITK that I got was a good peer group, and you will also realize this that the most important is to have a good friend circle and a good peer group who are doing a lot of different things, who will sort of open your mind up to doing a lot of things. I had a lot of friends who were doing a master's or planning to do a master's or planning to do a PhD. Some people just went straight into PhD immediately after the bachelor. Some people who had plans to work in XYZ places. Some people who did an MBA or are currently doing an MBA at like nice places and so on. Your peer group sort of pushes you and sort of makes you think about what are the different options and what can you do and what you can aspire to after you finish college. And that's probably the most important thing that you get from NITK. The other thing I would say that helped me was the internships I did. Again, I sort of used my internships to figure out what I wanted, what I didn't want. So I did one internship at like an industrial place. I did one internship at Tata Motors, at a plant, at a factory floor. I did one internship at a startup, at this electric vehicle startup, on controls, and yeah, tried to do different things to figure out what I liked and what I didn't like. That was very useful, sort of figuring out where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. I also have to say, like, yeah, a job I got through NITK placements, which was very useful. That actually was a decent.
Any general advice for those looking into an MS or a PhD?
Start researching early, start preparing early is what I would say. Unfortunately, it does take time to be ready, do your GRE, figure out which universities you like, get recommendations. All this takes quite some time, especially if you're doing a job also together, especially if you're doing final year also together. It takes quite some time to get everything ready. You don't want to rush it because you don't want to just get into some program that you don't like. That would be a bigger waste of time if you get something you don't like. There's also financial constraints involved, of course. So start researching early. sometimes, a lot of times, the reason people do 2 years of work experience after their bachelor is not because they actually wanted to do 2 years. In fact, even in my case, I would have been totally okay just doing 1 year of work ex. And actually, most of the learning I did during my work ex after bachelor's was just in the first year. The second year was like, not so much learning. Your learning sort of stalled after some time when you start working. But I did need that second year just because to apply for summer of next year, you have to start the summer of the previous year, not summer of previous year, but at least the fall of the previous year. Applications, final admits for 2022 will already start filling in by the end of 2021. And you have to do all your research and OGRE before all that and get your records. Yeah, so just all that whole process. It's difficult to make it in time for the first year deadline. So that's why people have to do 2 years of work sometimes after the bachelor just because they're not ready with all that stuff yet. So if you know you want to do that, you could try and prepare early, and that's the most useful thing. Yeah, the other advice is, of course, keep your grades high in college, in your BTech. That's the most important thing that I guess foreign universities look at. They don't really know which colleges are good and which colleges are not very good foreign universities. But if your grades are high, they should be like, yeah, their grades are high, they seem to have some okay recommendation letters, have a good GRE score, whatever. So yeah, unfortunately, try to keep your grades high. Maybe some motivation for final years to work on their major project and get their grades.
What are your future plans?
Future plans. So I just started my PhD. So for the next 3.5, 4 years is PhD. I'm really excited to make an impact with my research and everything. After that, I still have to think about. Like I said, I'd like to keep my options open. It could be that I go into academia and go further into research in academia, but it also could be. Currently, my plan is to go into industry after this as a research scientist. There are a lot of companies investing in robotics research centers or AI research centers that employ research scientists. Currently, there is a boom that as well. Hopefully, that boom continues, and then I hope to be a research scientist in some industrial research center. That is my current future plan.
And to conclude, what is one advice you would have given your college self?
Maybe I would have asked myself to procrastinate less in college. I mean, I guess there's a phase for everything. I emphasized in college to just have fun. And I think I had a lot of it, especially in final year. It was just having fun all the time. Not too much work getting done. But one advice I would give my college self is not to procrastinate and to, try and get my grades decent. Not necessarily great, actually. My grades weren't too bad, but try to put more emphasis on getting as much as you can out of college, getting as much learning as you can out of college while you can. The other advice I would give myself is, to not doubt myself. Maybe I would say during my college, I was slightly skeptical that I was a good fit to do a master's or a PhD or anything of that sort. But it turns out I was. It's just that I did very little research during my bachelor's, so I didn't really get that experience. But it turns out I was actually good at research once I did it during my master's. So yeah, just don't doubt yourself. Just try out different things. You can try them after college as well. Have fun. I don't regret any of this, but I enjoyed having a lot of fun during my bachelor's, and I ended up doing what I wanted anyway afterwards. I had a really good peer group. I emphasized on like making lots of friends and meeting lots of people, doing a lot of IST work. And I would say that should still be your priority during a bachelor's. I mean, your friends are more important. Your peer group is more important than anything else from your bachelor's. Relax, don't doubt yourself, but still keep working and keep trying to get as much as you can out of.
That brings us to the end of our session. We hope you found it useful. Do hit the like button and share and subscribe to find out about more opportunities beyond NITK. Thank you.